You're listening to the Real Estate Entrepreneur Podcast with Terrence Murphy, where we cover sales, investing, and entrepreneurship with an emphasis on real estate. Each podcast, Terrence and his guests will bring you informative and inspiring information within the real estate industry.
So you're here on the Real Estate Entrepreneur with Terrence Murphy. I'm excited to have another amazing real estate entrepreneur, Doug French, CEO of Stylecraft. It's a production home building company that operates in Central Texas, hubs here in Aggieland out of Bryan College Station. They continue to expand across the state, and it's one of the largest private home building companies in the country. They're building over 800 homes a year, which is staggering. It's amazing. Doug also operates Leading Realty Group, and a company that owns and manages 120 single-family homes, so he's building a nice-sized portfolio. And the Red Door Homes is a building company that focuses on building homes for clients who already own their lot or their land in rural areas. He's happily married to his wife of 12 years, Kara French, and their two children, Hadley and Benton French. Excited to have him here today with me. So I'm excited for another episode of the Real Estate Entrepreneur with Terrence Murphy. Excited to have a good friend here with me today. We've known each other for almost 15 years. I've known his dad. He introduced me to him. Doug French, CEO of Stylecraft. And before I jump into the episode, I always start off with a quote, a real estate quote or a scripture or something that kind of inspires people. And today it's a simple one from Mark Twain. It's buy land, they aren't making any more of it. So, or another one is buy earth. Earth is the best investment, right? And so with us both being real estate entrepreneurs, I wanted to have you on the show and just kind of talk about your business, talk about opportunities you see in the market. Man, but welcome to the show. Thank you for being here with me today, Doug.
Yeah, Terrence, I'm super excited. I'm excited for this for you and just getting out there and putting your positivity and what you're doing here in Bryan College Station and taking that elsewhere, man. So I'm honored to be here, Terrence. Thanks for having me. It's gonna be fun just to sit down and catch up.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, man. We've been to lunch a couple of times, and pretty much that's what we're gonna do today. Just talk shop.
No doubt.
But yeah, as we get into it, one of the things I want to talk about is just tell me a little bit about your journey. You know, obviously walk me through A to Z and then just how you got into the real estate industry.
Yeah. So kind of a little bit about my background. So I went to Texas A&M and honestly, you know, kind of going back a little bit further than that, I had a pretty rough childhood. And, you know, if you looked at it from an outsider, you certainly wouldn't think that. I came from a lot of money. My father was a successful businessman, but I had a lot of struggle. So as a high school student, I got addicted to Xanax and Valium and smoked a lot of pot and just really got on the wrong direction, Terrence. It was kind of a long road, and I woke up one day and ended up getting arrested a couple times, and just thought, what in the heck am I doing? And I never set out to be in the spot that I was when I hit bottom. I didn't set out to be unhappy and suicidal and just like, man, this isn't working. And so ended up going to another drug rehab facility. I was 18 years old. This is the fourth one I'd already been to, if that tells you anything. When I left jail the last time, the other inmates in there literally told me to get help. And so it's a wake-up call, right? And so I hit rock bottom, and that's when I turned my life around. And I got real involved in the 12-step program and got introduced to a higher power, you know, God and Jesus Christ. And it really, really turned my life around. I was very involved in that program for a long time, and it's been kind of a journey ever since then. So when I got back, I wanted to get back in school. I wanted to go to school. And so I finished, got my high school diploma, got my GED, then my high school diploma. And then I went to Blinn, and that's what I needed. I had never studied a day in my life. And so I had no clue. I had no, you know, just educational skills or anything. But what I was able to do is I was able to get in there and work hard. And I realized, you know, number one, I'm a pretty sharp guy. And I don't say that arrogantly, but I am. I've been gifted in that way. And then I have a really strong work ethic. I'm very, very driven, and I want to succeed, and I want people to like me. And so I went in there and really busted it. And so I had a lot of ground to make up, but I had a lot of success in school. So I went to Blinn for really 3.5 years and transferred into A&M, got a psychology degree. I worked all through college. And then me and my wife met, Kara.
At A&M?
Yeah, at A&M. So I was involved in nonprofit ministry, SOS Ministries. I'm sure you're aware of SOS, you're local. They do a lot of really good for inner city. And so I was working there, kind of doing some event planning and some public relations. And Kara was a volunteer in the children's ministry. And so we met there and, you know, and started dating and kind of went from there. So we got married right after A&M. Went to grad school at Baylor, got my MBA there, loved that. For me, it was very, very valuable. Now I come, like I said, from Mean, and so I didn't have to go into any debt. And so I'm not ever going to advocate anybody to get a degree and have $100,000 worth of debt unless you're an engineer or a doctor or something like that. And so I was very fortunate that I was able to get through school with no debt. I went to Baylor on a full academic scholarship as well. So that
was a blessing.
Definitely helps out. Yeah, no doubt. And then I came back and I graduated in 2008. Not the best time. So timing was poor. Market. It was a really tough market. But I got out and, originally I had a lot of pride and I didn't want to be known as Randy French's son for the rest of my life, right? No, that's just the boss's kid. So I didn't want to go work for my father originally. What I wanted to do is kind of go make my own way. Then hopefully my dad one day would call me home, hey, Doug, I really need your help. Come home. That was kind of my dream.
Yep.
And I thought, man, like that's not a good reason for not going and working for my family, for the family business. Why am I going to go out here and try to prove myself to everybody else so they'll think better or more highly of me? Like I need to go do what I'm passionate about and what I enjoy. And I always wanted to start a company. So I'm like, why would I ever want to go and try to build something on my own? My dad has such a good platform.
Man, that's a blessing.
So it's been great. So I was able to come back to Stylecraft. And
what year was that?
That was, I think it was 2009, Terrence. So I've been there 11, 12 years now, kind of full time. I've been in my current role as CEO probably 7 or 8 years now. So the first couple of years, dad was still kind of running things and I slowly but surely, took over. He had a little health scare there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened is kind of what thrust me into, okay, Doug, you got to step up and take over. He wasn't able to kind of juggle things like he had in the past.
Well, let's walk through that journey though. So I don't want people to think that you just graduated and became the CEO, right? So walk through that journey when you started in 2009.
So the very first thing I did, Terrence, which was really a lot of fun, it's kind of a cool story, is I got a finance background. So I love accounting, I love finance. I'm a numbers guy. And so the first thing I literally did was I just dug into the general ledger.
Wow.
And I just started looking at expenses. And what I realized really quickly, we had phone lines that we've been paying for 4 or 5 years that we don't even know where they went. I would call the number, it would ring and ring and ring and ring, and no one would ever pick up. Like, we're paying $100 a month for this phone line for 4 years. And so I did a lot of stuff like that. And that's just one small example. But I looked up, and about 60 days into my job, I'd saved the company $90,000 just by going in and doing things like that. So I really got in and I just kind of plugged in holes where things were missing. HOAs, homeowner associations, definitely a necessary evil in real estate. Definitely not a fun part, but that's something we had neglected as a company.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would build these neighborhoods and develop these neighborhoods and never even collect HOA dues. But then when you go to turn it over,
you got to pay them.
Yes. All of a sudden now people have to pay them. Well, guess what? They weren't saying, hey, Stylecraft, thank you so much for paying my HOA due for the last 10 years. They're saying, hey, you never told me we had an HOA due. You kind of forget those things,
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't paid it for 10 years, now you're not in the habit of doing that. And so I got in there and hired a third, really quickly realized, well, we don't want to manage these things. So hired a third party. So that was another kind of thing that I got in there and was able to help out with. Yeah. I worked on some pricing models and that sort of thing. And then I really got involved in the development side of the business. And so my father really took me along to all the engineering meetings, all the meetings with the cities, city council meetings and all that sort of thing. So I got some experience with development. And still to this day, if you ask me what are the aspects of the company I'm most involved with, most plugged in, it's going to be the finance side of things and then the development side of things.
That's awesome.
And then, slowly but surely, all of the executive team started reporting to me, and that didn't happen overnight. That was 3 or 4 years in. And that's kind of getting back to what I said about the health scare my father had. Kind of when that happened, that's when I had to really kind of step up and start taking more of a leadership role within the company. And I think by that time, I really wanted to come in and not be like, you always hear the horror stories about, the boss's dad, the boss's kid is here now, right? And he's spoiled rotten and he just wants everything handed to him. And so I took the attitude, Terrence, that it wasn't like an asset that I was a boss's kid. It was a liability.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get in there. I had to work twice as hard as everybody else. And I had to do the right thing more than everybody else to kind of earn my keep. And part of that's just me. I'm prideful and I want people to really respect me and think that I'm doing a good job. And so I got in there and really, really busted it and worked hard. And I did the same thing everybody else did. Back then, your first year at Stylecraft, you didn't get a vacation. You got 5 days sick when you first, and I did the same thing. Now, if I went and talked to my father, he would have gladly given me vacation days, but I wasn't going to do that. If everybody else is expected not to take a vacation the first year, I'm not going to do that either. And so that was really my attitude. And, and so I think that helped me kind of develop some trust and with the team and a lot of respect there as well.
No, that's good, bro. And I think there's a lesson to be learned. A couple podcasts back, we had a similar narrative about when you're transitioning into something, you got to really humble yourself. And it's like any team, military team, heck, family, right? If you just want to run in and you got to earn people's trust.
Yep.
They got to know you care about them. They got to know you can actually lead. It's like trying to be a captain on a football team. And we talked about this with our company. If you hadn't scored any touchdowns and you're not playing, it's hard to be out front talking. Yeah. So you did that though by humbling yourself and earning their trust. And like you said, getting into the weeds and just kind of playing your role until it was time to kind of move you up.
For sure. Yeah. Just kind of biding my time and not trying to step into something too quick. And, and I see people do that a lot, Terrence. They'll come in too hot, and that's the first thing I'd tell anybody. When we hire a manager who kind of comes into an established team, the first piece of advice I give them is, hey, don't go in so hot. Like, your job is to help your team. You need to go in there and say, hey, how can I serve you? How can I help you? And if you're going in there, guns a-blazing, like, it's not going to go well. Like, that's not the type of heart that we're looking for in a manager. So if that's what you want to do here, this isn't going to work well, because that's not our culture. We come in, like you said, with a humble attitude and, hey, how can I get in here and make your job easier on you? And how can I make you more successful? Because ultimately, if your people underneath you are successful, you're successful.
All day.
Yeah, all day long. And so your job as a manager, your job as a leader is to give people the resources they need to succeed and get the heck out of the way and offer some support, build them up,
let them run,
encourage them and let them run. Exactly. Exactly.
No, that's good, bro. So for the average listener, obviously that's not local, because everybody knows Randy French here.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Doug. Everybody knows your company. So for our audience, kind of walk me through who you are, what you are, and kind of the different arms that you have, right? So the development, the new construction, the rural construction, the investment properties. Just give me a bird's eye view, because you are the typical real estate entrepreneur. And so just kind of walk me through that.
Yeah, we definitely have our fingers in a couple different pots there, Terrence. And so, yeah, I'd be happy to. And talking a little bit about our growth too. When I first started, I think when I first came to the company, we had 30 something employees. We were doing about $40 million in sales a year from what I recall. Actually, it was less than that. And I think we're selling about 200 homes a year. This year, we'll close close to 800 homes.
Wow.
We have 160 employees. We're coming up on 160 employees. And so Stylecraft is definitely, kind of a
time out. You went from 200 homes a year to 800 homes a year. So built and sold.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this year
4X the business.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And one thing a lot of people don't understand about Stylecraft, even here local, that the people that know us, is half of our company is in Waco, Temple, Killeen. And so half of those houses, 400 of them are coming out of that region. And then we're going into Houston right now. We've always been in Burnham and Huntsville, and of course, Bryan College Station, Navasota. We recently opened up Caldwell. We're in Tomball now, and then we're in Angleton. And next year we're going to Texas City, and we're looking at Georgetown, Jarrell, Marble Falls, kind of that Horseshoe Bay area as well. So we're excited about those growth opportunities. So we really feel like the sky's the limit. We feel like we have a really good system, a really good thing in place, and we're just trying to get out there and kind of replicate it. So right now, that's really what I focus on, and that's really my job right now, Terrence, is getting out there and finding new markets.
So vision and growth and expansion.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that a little bit.
So Stylecraft is a production home building company. It's almost like if you go into to buy a car, right? So you can't come to us and say, hey, I got this really cool architect, or hey, I printed this plan off of plans.com or whatever. And will you build me this house? We're going to say, no, sorry.
Not our day.
What we have neighborhoods, and they're predefined neighborhoods on predefined platted lots. And then we have predefined plans, predefined colors, predefined options. So you can kind of come in, and it's called mass customization. So you can come in and you can pick your lot, you can pick your plan, you can pick the options that you want, you can pick the colors, but it's all within our system. Now you can't go to Lowe's and say, hey, I found this really cool tile that I like at Lowe's. Will you install it as my backsplash? The answer is no. We have our 8 backsplashes. This is what you get to choose from. And the reason we do that is because that's our process and that's our system.
Yeah,
and
that's your secret sauce.
Exactly. And then when we go outside of that, guess what happens? We screw up. And so when we screw up, we lose money. We're frustrated. The customer's frustrated. And so that's the type of discipline that we've had to really develop. 10 years ago, I still get realtors that call that, hey, well, your dad did it this way, Doug, or whatnot. I'm like, yeah, but we're a different company now, guys. And my dad was a lot more shoot from the hip, you come in, I want to make you feel good, and that's kind of his personality. And he obviously was very, very successful at that. But what I had to grow is a scalable business. And the only way you're going to have a scalable business is by having systems and processes in place. And unfortunately, we don't have the system to track you going down to Lowe's and buying that backsplash and us installing it correctly. It's not going to happen. We have a really good system to install these 8 options that we have. And I know that we'll do a very good job of that. And you'll be happy with that process. So that's Stylecraft in a nutshell. Again, 160 employees, 800 houses. We're projecting to do over 1,000 next year. So got some really good growth. This year, our backlog is really, really strong. So the amount of houses we have sold that have not closed going into this next year, we're probably going to be about half of that 1,000 going into next year. Already sold, somewhere in our pipeline, ready to close. So excited about
already 400 to 500 homes pending going into quarter 1, quarter 2. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're really, really feeling good about that. It's been a really strong market. And then I have a rental property company. It's called Leading Real Estate. And what we do there, and it started off, I just would build a couple rental houses a year.
Yep. And we've talked about this off and on.
Exactly. So they would be in the neighborhoods that we're in. And typically when we had capacity, so let's say we're starting a new neighborhood, we don't have a ton of momentum there. The superintendent has 4 or 5 houses going and kind of twiddling his thumbs. Like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and plug 3 or 4 more in. I feel like there'll be a good rental market here. And that's kind of what I would do. And so now that we've grown, we had about 150 houses now.
Wow.
Some of those are duplexes.
150 single family houses are duplexes.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's your sweet spot. Yep.
Yeah. And what we try to focus on is, number one, providing a single family home for about the same price that you could go and rent a multifamily unit for. And so we feel like if we can provide you a single family home with a backyard, a 2-car garage for about the same price you could get a multifamily unit, we think that we have a really good shot at getting that renter to come to us. And that's what we've seen. And so we focus on this. We focus on the young families. We've always done that, the young professionals. Even here in College Station, I don't own one student property. I don't. And so
families is your gig.
Exactly. So that's what we do well. That's what we know. And so I really took what we did at Stylecraft and just really kind of leveraged that. And so what we're doing now though, Terrence, we're going and doing larger projects. So we're going into a deal in Temple. It's in Belton ISD, a very good school district. We're going to build 50 single family homes within it'll be quarter 1 of 2021. So within 3 or 4 months, we'll build 50 houses. And we'll get those leased up.
Lease them all up there at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And so in the lending on that will be it's kind of almost like a multifamily deal though. That's really the structure of it. You get a 2-year interest only loan to get it built and get it leased up and get it stabilized. And then you kind of flip into some sort of, more permanent type structure.
Love it.
And so we're looking at bigger projects. And the reason we're doing that is it's hard to grow a company building 2 or 3 houses here or there, right?
Yeah, it's tough.
And sales are so good right now too. It's hard for me to say, hey, sales executive, sorry, I'm going to take these 4 or 5 lots from you and I'm going to build a rental property on it. So
you decided you're going to separate the neighborhood.
Exactly.
That's smooth.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're kind of doing that.
And you're starting to see a lot of hedge funds are starting to move into that single family. And I'm starting to see, because as single family rental, SFR, I'm starting to see BFR, built for rental.
Exactly.
So BFR has been a new acronym I've been seeing a lot. And so that's pretty much what you're doing. You're separating them and saying, hey, I got my new construction, because that's your gig, right? No remodeling, no tearing down and demo. You're just going to develop the land, build the house. And now instead of taking a couple of the lease, you're just saying the whole neighborhood is going to be in a great location and I'm going to lease them up.
And I mean, that's what we do well.
Yeah.
So I feel strongly that no one's going to get in there and be able to do a better job of that than we are. I think my cost basis is going to be less than any kind of investor coming in trying to do something like that. We have the relationships with the developers already. We know the good schools. We know the towns. We have the infrastructure to do it. And so it's just kind of growing that. And the other thing, you hit on it, Terrence, it's almost a new asset class that we're seeing kind of right before our eyes. And everything I'm reading says there's probably about a 10-year runway on this thing. It's going to be way underbuilt is what everybody feels like.
Yep.
And so we're actually, another company we're starting right now, we're doing our first project in Tomball, Texas for a third-party investor group where we're going and building for them. And so there's 41 single family houses we're building right now. We poured 41 slabs in 15 days.
Everything at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. We're going to bang them all out. So,
I need to catch up with you on that.
Yeah.
Because I got one I'm working on in College Station. It's going to be 19.
Okay.
And I'm building them all same time. I'm going to lease them out to families right by the new high school. So we need to connect.
Yeah. That would do great.
Yeah.
That would do great. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're going there, and so looking at really expanding on that some, and we have a pretty good pipeline of projects in front of us.
Developers who want you guys to come in and just take it, build the suit A to Z.
Exactly. So we're doing our first deal right now. We're liking it so far, so we're going to start looking at building out a team to just do that.
That's awesome.
To just build, rental properties or rental projects of that scale. For third parties kind of all around the state of Texas. So
that's good.
Excited about that. I think we got some good runway there. I own a company called Red Door Homes. And it's really a license agreement. And so it's almost like a franchise type deal. They do there's out of Florida. They do all the back office, all the accounting, all the plan sets, all the POs, all the purchase orders and that sort of thing is out of Florida. And then our job here is to sell the houses and get them built and warrant them.
And that's more rural, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's built on your lot. And so if, it's typically, grandma deeded me 10 acres, we had some family land. She deeded me 10 acres and now I'm going to go in and I want to build a house out here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of guys that'll do that are really, really expensive. And so we're trying to kind of get in there and be more of a value play. My general manager there has came out of kind of the production home mindset. And so he's very, very conscientious of efficiencies and how to really build a good product. And no one's really doing that. So there's definitely a hole in the market. And so those are really our three major, kind of business ventures I'm involved in. So leading real estate, which is the rental property company. Red Door Homes, which is the building your lot. And that does about 30 homes. This year we'll do about 30 homes.
That's good,
out of
bro.
that. Yeah. This is our second year in it. And we feel like if we can get that up to about 100 homes a year, we'll have a really good business there. And honestly, at 30, we're really doing well. So I'm super, super proud of our general manager, Vince Rufino over there. He's doing a great job. And Michelle Mims runs our leading real estate, and she does an awesome job in the property management. And then Stylecraft's really doing well too.
Man, that's awesome.
Those are the three things that definitely take up my time.
Leading real estate, Red Door, and then obviously Stylecraft.
You got it.
Good.
Got it.
Yeah, and I wrote down, so you guys do development, new construction, obviously the rural new construction, single family rental / BFR, and then now you're doing the third party stuff. So really you got 5 kind of pillars now.
Exactly.
Of the 3 companies.
Exactly. And I know we'll probably get into this more. And one thing that that really excites me about the Red Door Homes and then also this build for a fee stuff is it's just the capital structure of it's so different than what I'm dealing with the Stylecraft. Stylecraft, you got to go buy the dirt, got to get a bank loan, got to get it built. Typically, if I'm building it for somebody, if we're building it for somebody, they're giving us a $500 earnest money deposit. There's not a whole lot of teeth in that deal. Or we're building on a speculative basis where there's no customer attached at all. But building your lot, like if you want us to build you a house, it's your land, number one. You go get the loan. And so the risk profile is so different there. And I that's what's really attractive to that business model. And that's one of the reasons that I really want to get in there and kind of grow that deal because it's less risky. And the same thing going and building these projects for third parties. We're not getting the debt. The debt's not on our books. I'm not signing anything. And so they're getting the debt. We're going and doing the work, and we're just turning in progress draws.
You're just getting a GC on it.
Exactly. And we're just turning in progress draws. And so the profit on it is not as great as if we built it and sold it. But the risk is there's really no risk for us.
Yeah, you're hedging. You're hedging it because on Stylecraft you're carrying everything.
Oh yeah,
no
doubt.
That makes sense.
And it requires a ton of capital to get development deals done. So we're making money, but we're constantly just shoveling it right back into the company, and that's just kind of the nature of home building.
Part of it.
Yep, no doubt.
So if I were a new investor or a new potential or aspiring developer, let's just focus on that space for a second. Let's say I own a couple rental houses. I got a full-time job, but my goal is to try to start getting into development. Where would you encourage me to start? If you gave me 3 steps, hey, go do this, this, and this, and then call me back, right? What would be those 3 steps that you would encourage me to do if I wanted to be a developer?
Yeah. There's a lot of lessons to be learned in development. And that's what's so tricky about development.
Yeah.
When you're taking raw dirt into finished lots, every deal is so different. And so what I would tell you to do is to get a really good team around you. You need a really good attorney. Make sure there's no oil and gas issues. Make sure there's no liens on the property. Make sure there's no easements on the property that you have to deal with. So you got to have a really, really not hot shot, but a really good, thorough attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, really good. You have to have a really good engineer.
Yep.
I mean, a really good engineer who understands zoning ordinances, who understands sewer capacity. Can you get water to the property? And then you, I mean, if you're not going to get out there and sell the deal or build the deal, you got to have a really good builder partner, and you need to have a realtor or somebody in your corner too that can get out there and that understands that market, has done a deal like that, and they can tell you, hey, like your costs are this, the market's this, like there's no profit there.
Yeah, you're gonna be tight.
You need a punt. Don't do this deal. And so you need to have just a realistic view of that. And what I see a lot of is, people coming in and thinking that it's easy, number one, and trying to do a deal. And then it just sits there. Yep. And right now, a lot of people are looking really, really smart, myself included. Right? Come on, we're in Texas. Real estate is booming.
Yeah.
I mean, you really can't miss, quite honestly, Terrence. And so a lot of people look like geniuses when it's really just the market kind of making up for it.
And we know what happens when the market turns.
Exactly.
Because it's a cycle.
Exactly. No doubt. But I think that would be my advice, is to build a really good team. Get around some people who've done it before. Get a mentor, and especially in the development. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong on this since I haven't bought a bunch of houses and demoed them or remodeled them, but I feel like that's an easier, less risky, less error prone approach than going and developing raw dirt.
Yeah,
that is very, very risky.
They're both two different games.
It is. It requires a ton of capital. And you can really, really mess some things up. And if you buy a piece of property, or you start a piece of property and you get into it and you haven't checked all the boxes, I mean, you can sit there for years and years and years. And your property is getting a suntan at that point. And you have bank debt on it or whatever. And it can be really, really messy. And even me, I mean, we make mistakes on it all the time. We have a track really right around the corner, poured a ton of money into it. And it sat there for 2 years. We did not do our due diligence on it well. Got some really bad advice, and it sat there. It sat there, and it got a suntan for 2 years, and that's an expensive mistake to make. Yeah. And luckily, we're capitalized in a way, and home building is going well, that we were okay.
Yeah,
but
you can.
If that's your deal, if you're cashing your 401k or whatever to go do that deal, mama's not going to be happy when you come home and tell her that. It's not going to be an easy conversation.
Yeah.
So really getting in there and really understanding it. But I think an attorney is crucial. And so many people try to save money on that. And I would highly discourage you from doing that. I would really get a good attorney and then a really good engineer. I think that's the team you need.
That's the key
to really be a successful developer. And if you can find somebody who's done it before, even better.
Yeah, that's good, bro. Yeah. So, you know how when people are talking about commercial property and they say, oh, well, I need to be at this cap rate, right? Or when you talk about single family rentals and kind of the urban development, oh, I need to be at this rate of return. So people always kind of try to take a whole process of due diligence and strategy and team, and they try to bring it down into like one component. I know that's tough to do in development, but if you were to say, okay, this is the one thing that I always double check, that's like my quick bird's eye view. I need to be at, if I'm going to do 100 lots, 300 lots, or 10 lots, I need to be at 30,000 or whatever, right? What is that for you that you feel like is kind of a common thing for developers to look at?
Yeah, and it's a little bit different for us because we also build the houses.
There you go.
And so there's some deals, Terrence, where I won't make any money on the dirt, but I make it on the house. Typically, that's not what we try to do. We want to have two standalone companies. We want to have a development company that's also profitable, and it has been. But one thing, especially on a big development, typically you're not making any money phase one. You're going in, you're having to bring utilities to it. You're going to probably have to build some big thoroughfare, especially if you're in College Station or Bryan. They definitely like those, and so that's difficult. So there's a lot of upfront costs there. And so sometimes we'll go into a deal like that where we're basically just kind of breaking even on the lot, but then we know we're going to get it on the back end. What we try to hit is, a margin of about 25%. We're trying to hit a 25%, gross profit margin on that. That's what I like to see.
A to Z construction and dirt. Or
No,
just
no,
dirt?
just the dirt part.
Okay.
Just the dirt part.
And I know another question is going to come up. So obviously, because I get it all the time. When you own the development company and you own the building company, does your building company buy it from the development company just like any other builder?
Yes.
That's what I always encourage people to do. But what they end up trying to do is pass it through, right?
Yep.
So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and the reason, and we've seen it in Houston happen a lot, where what ends up happening, if you don't do it that way, number one, you squeeze out the third-party developers, because if you're putting it in as your cost basis, now nobody can come in and develop that lot and sell it to your home building company for what you can, because you're not making any profit on it. So no third party is going to come in and do that. So
you're almost working for free.
Yeah, you are. And we've seen a lot of the national builders in Houston do just that. And it's really kind of messed that market up from a land development. Now, of course, a ton of people still do it, and there's huge master plan communities that are wildly successful, but it definitely makes things tricky, and especially because the publics will pay more for the dirt as well. But yeah, you're 100% right, Terrence. What we want to do is we want to look at it standalone. And if we are putting in the lot at our cost basis, then we really can be hiding a lot of sins in our home building company. We can be very inefficient at building houses, but maybe we're really good at developing the dirt, right? So we're making it on the dirt, not making it on the house. But if you go in, you develop the lot and you market to market, just like you would buy it from a third party developer, then all of a sudden it keeps everybody honest. And so that's really what we do as well. That's what we've been taught. That's definitely best practice. If you're going to have that risk and that capital invested in that project,
it needs a return.
It does. It does. And otherwise, you're just kind of hiding some sin somewhere else. You're not efficient somewhere else, and you're not able to benchmark properly. Now you're like, okay, you don't know where you're losing it.
That's great.
And so no, I'm with you 100% there. That's definitely the way that we do it, and that's for sure best practice.
Yeah, and I want to add that. So benchmarking is knowing the metrics, knowing the profitability, making sure you keep it separate, making sure you keep everything accountable, and being able to track, right? Because I always say, if you can't track your numbers, if you can't go back, because now at this time, most of my projects, I have a 12-year history on it. I can track a plan of what I've cost. So now if I want to pivot a little bit, okay, let's, instead of taking the stone all the way up or whatever, I have a benchmark because I know, and so you're just saying that obviously in bigger terms, but having that benchmark to be able to keep up with that profitability.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. What we don't want to do is have our, development company dilute our home building company as such, where we no longer can benchmark with our peers.
Love it.
And so that's something that, we really value that.
That's a nugget, man. That's good, bro.
No.
Well, man, I'm gonna keep running. So what's the most surprising lesson you've learned since you got into the industry? Like if you could go back to 2009, right? Your 20-year-old self and say, hey, you should know this. What would that be? What's that lesson, that number one lesson?
If I went back to my 2009 self, I'd tell myself to buy more.
Buy more real estate.
Yeah. No,
with my quote I just said, buy land. They aren't making any more of it.
Exactly. Because back then, man, it was at the bottom. And like I said, it made a lot of people look really, really smart. Terrence, kind of looking back at it, I think a lot of it would probably be more leadership type stuff. If I look back at my biggest mistakes, it's typically been putting people, and really when it's hurt people, is when I put people in positions that they're just not well suited for. And it may not be that they're not well suited for that position, but they're not well suited for that position in our company because of how I operate. I'm really big picture. And so
you're visionary.
I am. And I struggle with the details. I got about an hour worth of detailed, intense work in me a day. And then once that's done, I'm done. But the people around me that I've surrounded myself have to be detailed, because if they're not, it's not going to work for me. Because once I start seeing the details slip, I get really, really anxious. I do. I get really anxious because I feel like, man, we're missing stuff here. And I'm kind of a guy, and I love to go in and tweak things and to make things better. So I'm kind of like a process improvement.
Give me the framework.
Kind of geek. Exactly.
Yeah, and I'll go in and shape it.
Exactly. So I kind of go into the company and say, okay, these are the 2 or 3 things this year we've got to get better on. And so, kind of looking back at that, I think that's one thing I would tell myself is you got to have a really good process for hiring people and vetting people. And just because they're really good in one role doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be good in another role. And that's probably been, if I looked at my biggest mistake, and I've learned a ton from it.
Putting people in the wrong seats.
Yeah, it's been putting people in the wrong seats and just not having, the foresight to be able to see that, hey, this isn't going to be a good fit, and I've done that quite a few times with internal promotions, and then also hiring people from outside the company.
No, that's good.
And one thing we've never had any success with is hiring somebody that's highly experienced. If you have a ton of experience, typically for us, that has not worked well. If you're coming from a Pulte or a D.R. Horton or a Lennar, and you've run all these divisions and done all this stuff, and we've done that some. We have a couple people within our company that's worked out well for, but typically it is not. And it's been just because we have a different culture, and when people come in with kind of preconceived notions, it definitely can be difficult. And then I think the other thing that was one of the first lessons I learned is don't focus on top line growth. I mean, it is important. Growth is important. Sales are important, but do not focus on sales just for sales sake. And I get it. Sales cures all evils. You hear all of these. You hear all of these mantras, but talk about a peer group. We're involved with a group called the Builder 20 Club, and what it is 20 builders through the United States, really in different markets that do not compete. And we benchmark against them. And I remember going to the meeting like so excited. We did so well. We grew our company. And I looked at our numbers. I'm like, man, I mean, our net profit is like a third, like on a percentage basis,
of what these guys
a third of what these other guys are doing. Like, what are we doing? Yeah, we're growing, but we actually grew last year, but we made the exact same amount of money we did the year before. Like,
yeah, that's tough.
That doesn't make any sense. And so I really got in there, and that's when I really started focusing on margin.
That's good.
And I think that's something that, a lot of people don't necessarily put the time into it. And then another lesson, which this isn't a lesson that I've necessarily learned because I'm just wired this way. I'm a finance guy. I love finance, but you've got to know your numbers.
Yeah.
And if you do not know how to read a balance sheet and income statement, like turn this podcast off, turn on the podcast about how to read a balance sheet and income, because that's what you need to learn. If you're going to be a business owner, you have to learn the finance side of the company. You got to understand, how do you capitalize something? What does your capital structure look like? What does your balance sheet look like? What does your income statement look like? What does that need to look like? And when are my costs out of line? And get in there and have the tough conversations. And because numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. And numbers really are the scorecard for business. And it's not just all about making more money, but if you're out there doing more work and
making less,
then guess what? You can't invest back in your people. You can't do a 401k. You can't do a profit share. You can't keep hiring people. You can't do trainings. You can't do really fun things for your employees that they enjoy. And so it's not all just about, let's make more money. Let's build. It's also, you have to be successful in order to employ people. And if you're not, if your margins are too skinny, then when the tide turns, you're going out of business, and then nobody can feed their family.
Yeah, that's good.
You got to look people in the eye and tell them, sorry, you don't have a job anymore. And that's the conversation I don't want to have.
Nobody wants to have.
I don't want to have that conversation. And so I make sure that we're very well capitalized, and then I make sure that we're profitable, and that we're really looking at those type of things. And we could drive more growth. We could take more risk. I mean, just because a bank will lend you money, it's another piece of advice. Just because a bank will lend you enough money does not mean you should take it. They will give you enough rope to hang yourself, especially in the home building business, the development business. We've seen it time and time again. And this is kind of one of those times where the banks are really being aggressive. And I love that because they get a good interest rate and longer amortization and all that. And it's great. But at the same time, like,
still know your number.
Just because they'll give you money does not mean that you should do it. Yeah,
that's good, bro.
And so I think those are probably some of the big ones there, Terrence. I'm sure there's some more, but those are the ones at top of mind.
Those are the ones that jump out.
Yep, no doubt.
We've already talked about this a little bit. Where do you see in the real estate industry in the next 12 to 24 months the best opportunity? And you said it, building the BFRs, right? Built for rent, right?
Yep. That's a big part. And you hit on it too when we talked. I can't remember if it was on the podcast or when we were catching up before, but people are fleeing to these rural markets. I mean, people are moving out of these urban cores that everybody knows everybody talked about the urban core and how that was being reestablished. And I still think there's, a business model there, and I'm sure it's going to still do well, but people are trying to get out. And as millennials age and they get married and they have kiddos, even before COVID, when you have kids, you want to be in a good school district.
Yep.
You just do. You don't want to be in a high-rise apartment in downtown Houston. You don't. It sounds good, but man, you want to be able to spread your wings out a little bit. You want to be able to let your kiddos go run outside in the backyard. You want that 2-car garage. You want the good school districts.
Yep.
And so we feel like people are going to continue to kind of flock to some of these more rural markets. And not in crazy numbers, but we feel like a lot of those, like the Brenham, Texases and Huntsville, we're doing a deal in Caldwell. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier or not. And that's been doing very, very well. People
That's
are trying
awesome.
to move outside, and they also realize, hey, I can work from home.
Yeah.
I can work from home, so I don't have to be right next to my job. And so I think that's even kind of encouraged some of that as well.
No, that's good, bro. Well, I want to close the loop on one. So
Okay.
obviously growing at 4X the business, that's a blessing in itself. A lot of hard work. Staff is almost tripled. So what is 800 homes a year in volume? Just a guess, just a range in volume. What is that? About 800 homes that you're doing in total volume.
Oh, so revenue?
Yeah, so just total volume.
It's about 200 million.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's about
200 million.
Yeah, 200 million.
Man,
yeah.
that's awesome, brother.
Yeah. So we're definitely excited about that, and I'm gonna hit on it again, not to brag too much, but our net profit has definitely done more than 4X. Like
awesome.
I said, where our net profit at the beginning was just so skinny.
Yeah,
and
it was
now,
tough to scale.
It was, and so now that as we've grown the company, not only has our top line grown substantially, but our bottom line has as well, and that's as a percent of sales. So we're excited about that too.
And you said Builder 20. Most people may not know what that is. That's the National Association of Builders, kind of these mastermind groups with other builders.
Yep.
You got in one. It was more focused on production.
Yep.
What would be your couple takeaways that you took away from being a part of that group, getting in that, National Association Builder 20 group?
For sure. I mean, I think the biggest for me would be the finances.
Okay. Knowing the finance.
Would for sure be the finances. And then we just have been introduced to a lot of really good systems.
Yeah.
And so we partner with a ton of consultants who kind of come in and help us implement systems within our company. I'm not a big believer in reinventing the wheel. If somebody's doing it really well, then get them to come in there and
show it to you.
Exactly.
You pay for it, but
yep,
show it to you.
Exactly. And it's paid dividends. So we've been introduced to a lot of really good systems throughout home building that have really been game changers for us.
I would say probably that's one of the biggest things for me, and probably was for you. We're the type of personalities where we'll figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
And when we were young and had the time, no kids, you could read 1 million books, you could you could watch podcasts. What I'm learning is, I always say TBS, time best spent. Where's my time best spent? And if it's trying to sit down and spend 6 months to figure out something, or hire a consultant who can teach it to me in 30 days, that's the shift that I'm having to make as a leader, because my company's depending on me, the profitability of the company, my family being able to get home at night and not be here till 2 a.m.
Yep.
So that's the shift that I'm seeing a lot of CEOs and business leaders are making. And it's tough for us as leaders out front, because we have always been the smartest or one of the smartest guys in the room.
Yeah.
But what I'm learning now is if I'm always the smartest guy in the room, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome to hear you say that.
Because you're not learning at that point, right?
Yeah, you're not growing.
Yeah,
you're not evolving.
Yeah. And what you said reminded me, where can you buy time? If you can buy time, right?
Yep.
And that's what you're trying to do there. You're not going to go do it all the work on yourself, but you're going to have somebody that comes in that does it. And now all of a sudden you have all that time to go do something that you're better suited for.
Yeah.
Or spend time with your family or whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Really understanding your gifts.
Yep. No doubt.
Yeah. That's awesome, bro. Cool, man. Well, I got a couple more thoughts. So where are you investing your money right now? Like, as a real estate entrepreneur, I always like quoting Robert Kiyosaki talks about, we have to have a career, which is development and construction, but then our money has to have a career. Yep. Do you feel like that's in the investment properties and single family rentals?
Yeah, no, it is. I'm looking to diversify probably in some lower growth type stuff as well, because I'm just so heavy in real estate.
Same here.
It's ridiculous. And so I'm being encouraged on a number of fronts to start, diversifying some. And I've definitely done some in the past, but I need to do more of it. And so I'm going to do some of that, but that's not really a lot of fun.
It's not.
Honestly.
It's not.
Yeah. I mean, the fun stuff for me right now is, leaving the profits in the company, because Stylecraft is really where the money's made.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. So really reinvesting money in that company, letting it sit there and cook and just continue to turn and turn and turn. And then the rental property as well. And one of the reasons I really like the rental property is, and this was really back, we had a 39% tax rate. And I looked like, we did really good this year, but we gave so much money, to the IRS, and it was kind of painful. And I thought, man, I've got to get in some more tax efficient type investments, and single family rental is definitely that. And so that's really what kind of attracted me to it. And then
from a tax standpoint.
Exactly.
And then you already got the machine in place to help you produce it. It's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly.
That's good.
Yep. No doubt.
So technology. Obviously, there's all kind of innovation entering the real estate space. What would you say is your hack, right? What is that new technology that you're using to really kind of help grow your business? It might have been a consultant technology or whatever. What would you say that is?
For sure. So I'm not a super techie guy, just honestly, and I'm not, never have been bleeding ledge either. I'm kind of more of a laggard. I'm going to get somebody else in there to figure it out. But we do invest heavily in software, and so we have a really good software system that we just implemented probably 2 years back. It was really expensive and took, really. And when I was talking to people, they said, "Look, Doug, like if you're going to do this, flush a year. That year is done. You're not going to do anything else that year."
Other than mess with the software.
Exactly. Yeah. As far as like growth and improvement and that sort of thing, like just go ahead and just forget about that year. And that's what we did. And, and we have systems, Terrence, to where we know every 2x4 that goes in the house before we ever pour the slab. Like or really before we ever start the house. So you're
estimating as a machine.
We have really, really tight budgets. We issue POs, we pay off of a PO. And so you don't invoice us. We pay off a purchase order. And then when that activity is complete on the schedule, when the superintendent clicks that the slab has been placed, it automatically pays the concrete. It automatically pays the slab labor.
Wow, you're automating it.
Yeah, it's an ACH, just direct deposit. So there's no paper check. And so those are the things that we've really, as a company, we've really worked on.
Cool, bro. So let's talk about you personally now.
Okay.
Because obviously, as the real estate entrepreneur that you are, everybody's pulling at you. Everybody's wanting your time. And 160 employees, right? And that's not even all the subcontractors and the vendors, and the list goes on of people who want your time. What are you doing to manage your time? And then what are you doing to invest back into yourself?
Yeah. And so manage my time, it's definitely a struggle. Mm-hmm. But what I try to do, Terrence, I try to do time blocking.
Yep.
And so Tuesday mornings from 7 to 11 o'clock, I have a time block. That means that, it's off limits. Like that's kind of my time.
Yep.
And I do the same thing on Wednesday. And I think the same thing on Thursday as well. So I have a couple different times like that. And so I try to be really, really disciplined. So Mondays, it's meetings all day long. And literally sometimes I have one at 8, I have one at 9, I have one at 10, I have one at 11, I have a lunch meeting, I have one at 1. It's brutal. And after Mondays, like you don't want to talk to me. I'm done. I don't have any more words. I'm done. But it's kind of for me.
But you get out of the way for the week.
Yeah, but some people might say, Doug, like that's a horrible idea. And some days I think that, but I get it out of the way for the week. And it used to be I would spread it out over Mondays and Tuesdays, and both of those days are flush. I'm like, man, now I only have 3 days. I'm trying to fit all this other stuff in there. So it's kind of a scheduling nightmare. So I've really kind of focused on Mondays and really try to cram as much internal stuff there. Mm-hmm. And then like Tuesday, like I said, I'll have that time block. And then I'll have meetings that afternoon if needed. And then Wednesday is kind of the same thing. And then Thursday, like I have a one lunch and I have one breakfast. And honestly, I haven't been doing that. So if you want lunch or breakfast with me,
you get Thursday.
This Thursday. And if it's booked out a month, it's booked out a month. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's get on a Zoom call. And I've really been honestly saying no to a lot of lunches and trying to jump on Zoom calls. And I'm a people pleaser. I want people to like me. I don't want people to think that don't want to spend time with them because I do. But so COVID's kind of been a good excuse. Sorry, Doug's not taking in-person meetings because of COVID. Let's jump on a Zoom call type deal. So I've been I'm not sure what
you've been leveraging that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to leverage after that, Terrence. So we'll see. But yeah, and I'm kind of like you, man. I'm very, very bad at saying no. I'm involved in a lot of nonprofits and I love the work that I get to do with them. But man, it takes a ton of time. And typically on my way there, I'm thinking, oh my God, like, why did I say yes to this? Like, why did I sign up to this? But when I leave, I feel like refreshed. I feel so good.
I'm glad I went ahead and did that. I'm glad I went ahead and did
exactly.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it is a big time commitment and it's huge. So for me, what's beneficial for time management is to have it I'm not very disciplined. So I need to build in the discipline. I need a system that has the discipline in there. My executive assistant, who's amazing, she schedules everything for me.
Yep.
She keeps me on track. And so her job is to really manage my calendar.
We need to get her and JC together.
Yeah.
Because JC's doing amazing for me.
They probably would trade notes. Yeah. Tell some war stories, I'm sure. And so, but yeah, no, that's been great. And I need that discipline and I need somebody there that kind of could be that buffer and that gatekeeper for me. And because my tendency is to say yes and to overcommit and just to do too much. And then investing in myself, Terrence, I'm a huge believer in that. when my wife and I got married, I think I told my father-in-law this as well when I kind of asked for her to, for her hand in marriage. I told him, I said, look, I'm not perfect, but I will tell you this, like when I screw up or I have a problem, I'm going to get some help. Like I'm going to go and get some help and I'm going to rally around. I'm going to have people around me that are going to help kind of lift me up, and whatever that is. We all go through ups and downs in life.
Yep.
And valleys and peaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I do executive coaching once a month. Actually, I have always struggled with anxiety. And so I go to a counselor about once a month who helps you kind of with
That's
anxiety.
good. Staying on top of that mental wellness.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
My mental wellness. And then I'm involved with Young Presidents Organization, YPO. And so that's another kind of professional development organization I'm involved in. And for me, I needed that outlet because, it's hard to talk to my friends about some of the issues that I deal with at work. It's hard to talk to them about money. It's hard to talk to them about some of the stuff that I struggle with. I have some friends that I can do that with, but YPO has been a really good outlet for that.
Yeah, because we're all in that same game.
Exactly.
It's a different game.
It is.
And, I struggle with that with my brothers or sisters or cousins because the entrepreneurial space, it never stops.
Yeah.
And the clock doesn't go off. You don't get to check out at 5 o'clock. Yeah. You got to force yourself to check out, but you could work 7 days a week, you know.
Yep. Non-stop.
Sun up to sundown.
And you never would be done. Yeah. Exactly. And so that's been a really good outlet and something very, very healthy for me to kind of be surrounded by some people that are in similar situations that are young and kind of growing companies and then have families too, because that's another thing that's difficult. Like not only are you trying to juggle, the demands at work, but, I have 2 kiddos and I want to be an awesome dad. And I mean, I really, really want to make sure that I spend enough time with them and I want to be a good husband to my wife. And, and it can be a struggle as when you come home and you're just wiped out.
Out.
Yep. And it can be difficult. And sometimes I can, get hyped up and play with the kiddos. But then after that, I'm not even talking to my wife. I'm just like, look, babe, I'm done. I'm sorry. And she probably feels the same way, quite honestly, after wrangling them all day. So and she's kind of an introvert like me. So sometimes that's not always a bad thing.
But y'all found that balance.
Exactly.
Well, one of the things I had a guy tell me one day, he said, they can find another broker or CEO of TM5, but your wife and your kids can't create another husband and a dad. No doubt. It's like, that really hit me in the face years back. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I got to start managing my energy. I got to start managing my time. Because I remember when I was young and hungry and I had no track record of success and I would see guys that were doing what we're doing now and I would want to get on their calendar and try to get in front of them and they'd say, Terrence, here's a couple books. I can't really get to you. And at times I'm like, man, you don't have 30 minutes?
Yeah.
But I get it now.
Yeah.
Because
that's 30 minutes they wouldn't be able to spend with their kiddo.
Yep, exactly. And you got to choose. Yep, and especially as our kids are getting older, my 10-year-old, 6-year-old, and 4-year-old, they're not babies anymore where you can just put them in the bed and they take a nap. They're demanding more attention.
Yep. And you only have so much time to have that influence.
Yeah, that's good.
For sure.
Because it goes quick.
No, it certainly does.
So you sent the book in. I always ask all my guests to come and bring a book. Yeah. Right? There's a million books out there, but what's that one book or 2 books that you brought? And you brought the Snowball. Tell me why.
So, and it's interesting because I never see this on anybody's list. And for me, it's more about the business concept. And so number one, I love Warren Buffett. I always have. I just think he's so contrarian and the advice he gives is not typical. And so I've read, Poor Charlie's Almanac by Charlie Munger, and I've read all the annual letters. I mean, that's it. And the Snowball is not an autobiography, but a biography. And I love biographies. I love reading about people. I think there's business books sometimes to me can kind of become a little dull, but a biography to me really keeps my attention. And then I learn the concepts through the story, if that makes sense. And so the concept I've learned through the Snowball, and Terrence, is kind of what you got at earlier. Can't remember the quote that you said, but how's your money making money? And so what he's been able to do and what he's so successful at, and what I'm trying to do in my own life is what he talks about is you want companies, you want businesses that flip off cash flow, right? You want a lot of cash.
Yep.
But what you want companies that don't require a ton of investment back in them. And then you take that cash, you go buy other investments.
Yep.
And then those flip off more cash flow, and those don't require a lot of capital expenditures. And then you invest that, and you invest that, and you invest that, and then it's a snowball. Unfortunately, home building is not one of those businesses. Home building have to constantly
put cash in,
put cash back in. But guess what? Red Door Homes is not. I do not have to put a ton of cash back in Red Door Homes.
So now you can leverage there.
Exactly. rental properties. Once you buy it, you got to put some cash in it when you buy
It
it.
cash flows itself.
But I mean, so does Warren Buffett when he buys a company. He's got to put cash in it. And each house, you look at it as its own individual business, right?
Mhm.
And so once you put that initial investment into the house, it's just going to constantly either pay down debt, and then eventually, once that's all paid up, it's going to flip off a ton of cash flow. Then what do you do with that? You go buy more rental property or more businesses or whatever. And so that was a concept that I really picked up. And he did that with, Geico and some of the insurance companies, and with the amount of float that those businesses generate, you pay your premium, and the idea ideally is to make a profit on that premium. But even if you break even, you take all those premium dollars, you're able to invest that for a year.
Yep.
Interest free. Like, no, they're not expecting any money back from that. All you have to do is make sure that your insurance premiums cover your claims. And as long as that happens, you get to use all of that money for free and go invest it. And that's why he loved the insurance business.
Yep. And he's done really well in it.
Exactly. And done really, really well. And then also leverage those dollars to go buy different businesses and so on and so forth. And, the rest is history.
Man,
and
that's a great nugget.
And,
So-
it's just, and it's
So
exactly.
the Snowball with Warren Buffett.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's
got it.
good, bro.
Yep.
That's good. Well, man, I want to close, man, with a final thought. What would you want to leave our listeners and our audience with? What would that be? If you could, whatever your final thought would be.
I think the biggest thing, Terrence, is, man, if you're struggling, get help.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with something, get help. And if that's in business, get help.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to read a balance sheet and income statement, go get with somebody that does.
Mhm.
If you're struggling with mental illness or drug addiction, go to rehab, get a 12-step program. If
Yeah.
you're struggling with anxiety, go to a counselor, get some help. Like, don't suffer alone.
You're not the only one.
Don't suffer alone. There's so many people around you that are willing to help out and willing to professionals or even friends,
Yep.
and I think that's really what's led to a lot of my success. Is I have a really good friend group that holds me accountable in my spiritual life and in my family life and with my kiddos. I have a really good peer group that holds me accountable at work. I have a really good counselor that holds me accountable. And so I have all these people.
You're not carrying the burden by yourself.
I'm not. And I know myself, Terrence. I'm not disciplined enough. If I do not have people in my life that I know I'm going to see next week, and they're going to ask me if I did this.
Mhm.
And if that's not there, it's not going to happen. The same thing about working out. I got a guy that comes to my house at 6:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays,
Mhm.
works me out for about an hour. If he didn't come to my house
You
on
wouldn't work
Tuesdays and
out.
Thursdays, I wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And so I know I'm not disciplined enough. So guess what? I structure the discipline. I make it happen. I structure the discipline in my life, and it makes it easy for me. I only have so much discipline.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it's getting spent at work. And when I come home, I'm not going to the gym.
Yep.
But when Cody comes and knocks on my door, rings my doorbell, I'm not going to sit up. I'm not going to let him sit there on the front porch. That's kind of awkward, right? I'm not going to do that. So just the pride in me, if nothing else, is going to go answer the door and go out there and get a workout in,
And I think that's a great final thought, is structure the discipline in your life, in your schedule, put those accountability partners in place. And I always say some people ask for the accountability, but then they won't give the accountability partner the leeway to say, you're out of line, man.
Yeah, come on. And then they're mad at you.
Yeah, you're out of line.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to close with, I went through depression when I got paralyzed, had the neck injury. It's real.
Yep.
And I think as men, especially strong men, leaders, people who are explorers by nature and want to achieve, they always think we got to have it all figured out, and we don't.
Yep.
And it's okay to say, Doug, man, I need you, bro.
Exactly.
Hey, man, I need to come see you. Let's go to lunch. Here's what I'm feeling. Because the thing that I've learned is you're not alone.
Yep.
Whatever you're going through, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what illness, what mental illness, whatever it is. There's somebody else that who's going through it. They're just probably afraid to bring it up, just like you are.
Yep, exactly.
And God's put them in your life for a reason. So, man, thank you so much, bro. There's so much wisdom in this. Look at my notes. So, man, but yeah, we're excited to put this podcast out. It's going to be amazing, bro. Thank you so
Terrence,
much.
It's been a blast, man.
Love
I
you, brother.
appreciate you having me. Love you too, man.
Yeah,
Thanks,
appreciate
Terrence.
it.